It was a wild week in the NFC, but which result was the most shocking? It's time for the NFC Squad. Let's get it.
You are talking ball with the NFC Squad. From the Cowboys to the Packers, the Falcons to the 49ers, and everyone else around the NFC, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming weekend for hard-hitting NFC football with our harder-hitting takes. Buckle up, it's the NFC Squad, and we have a seat for you. No hurt feelings allowed. Squad up, you're part of the NFC Squad.
Welcome into the NFC Squad here on this NFC Squad breakdown of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Time to grab your favorite beverage, sit back and join us as we get ready to take a look at what was a wild week around the NFC. On today's NFC Squad, we're going to dive into last week's best games, including one that might have exposed an NFC favorite. We'll take a look at some of the NFC teams that we want to kick out of that playoff conversation that no longer deserve to be taking up space in this conference when it comes to these playoff races. And we're going to kick it all off with a look at this week's most shocking results. And I have a feeling we're going to be talking a little Atlanta Falcons in the process, right, Aaron? We'll get to that. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, where you can get this season started with a big return. New customers put $5 down, you can get $150 in bonus bets. If you win that first $5 bet, just visit FanDuel.com to get started. I am your host today, Ross Jackson of Locked On Saints. Conveniently, following a disappointing loss, David Harrison of Locked On Commanders not here. This is becoming a trend. Becoming a trend for the squads, right, Peter? We've got Peter Bukowski over at Locked On Packers, Landon McCool over at Locked On Cowboys, Gino Camilleri, one of the co-hosts over at Locked On Eagles, as well as Aaron Freeman over at Locked On Falcons. Gentlemen, to kick off our conversation today, we want to take a look at which results were the most shocking around the NFC this weekend. The Saints toppled the Atlanta Falcons. We had the Patriots with a win over the Bears that sent them into a literal firestorm. The Steelers toppling the Commanders, and of course, the Cardinals over the Jets. Aaron, why don't we start with you? What do you think the biggest surprise was this weekend, my friend?
Well, if you listen to Locked On Falcons, the Saints beating the Falcons was not a huge surprise. We were talking about the interim coach bump all week long and how the Saints were absolutely going to get it, and the Falcons would have to weather that storm and win that game. So for me, the actual answer is the Cardinals beating the brakes off of the New York Jets. I would have never seen that one coming. Figured the Cardinals could win that game, but the way that they won it, just dominating the Jets from start to finish, was to me the biggest surprise of the weekend.
You guys would never believe this, but Aaron Rodgers has not galvanized that locker room after they kicked Robert Saleh out of there. It's shocker. It's the weirdest thing.
Wow. Absolute shocker. It's almost as if trying to hire a guy and then hire the guys that guy wants to hire in order to build a team just doesn't work sometimes. Peter, would you say?
Does Aaron Rodgers have a favorite quarterback that maybe the Jets could bring in? And maybe you could help out with some of the quarterbacking issues that they're having?
They tried it with Tim Boyle last year. They find out he's not an NFL guy. So you're just this is the problem that you face when you turn your whole franchise over to Aaron Rodgers. The thing that was really shocking, I think, about that was the defense has gotten so bad. Like, what has happened? The whole thing of the Jets. I know this is the NFC Squad, but like this Cardinals offense, it was a hot knife through butter the entire game. I mean, the numbers that we got to see from Kyler Murray, 22 of 24. I mean, you can't do two incompletions in practice would be tough to do. And he's out there against what is supposed to be one of the best defenses in the league. Like, I don't know where they go from here, but if you're an NFC West team, you have to be pretty nervous right now about what the Cardinals are building. After Gino's boy, Jonathan Gannon, looked like the meme king when he first got there. Is he good? Are we sure he's not good?
Yeah, Dollar Store Andrew Tate's kind of figuring it out now. That was what I was calling him.
I have to retire that moniker.
No, he really is. And it's tough because you're looking at the West and you're like, no way Arizona is actually looking that good. And I was talking to this with Ty over at Locked On NFL. Is Kyler, Aaron, this is to your anti-Cliff Kingsbury narrative. He's back. Like, Kyler is all the way back, right? Like, we need to give him more credit for being one of the top guys in the NFC right now.
Yeah,
those
it's
Call of
been
Duty
a
games really
heck of a
were
week.
disappointing.
Yeah, he hasn't lost since Black Ops 6 came out. So it's just the facts right now.
I just don't think it's a very good game, and I think they're having a hard time, getting him into the game. So he's into football for this week, and that's what that score means.
How about the Detroit Lions overcoming a 5 interception game by Jared Goff? I mean, that one probably isn't shocking in terms of the result of that game, the Lions over the Houston Texans. But how about the Lions coming out on top in that matchup despite that interception total?
I want to know what Peter thinks of that because he hates Jared Goff. He hates CJ Stroud. So,
where do you go, Peter?
It was very good. It was very good for the agenda right until the end. It was not the final outcome was I was very conflicted at how this all went down. I also took a lot of heat from Lions fans who did not like me saying that that they didn't look good, but like they didn't. And I think winning that game is a bigger indictment of the Houston Texans, who I think are like the biggest frauds in the NFL this year. And I said that going back, I did not understand the hype coming into the year. The Lions are gonna beat teams that will beat themselves, even if the Lions also beat themselves. They're just more talented than most teams. I thought this had way more to do with the Texans. I don't like Bobby Slowick. I don't know what it is you think you do here. He needs to go see the Bobs ASAP. And so I just like, and CJ Stroud, well, you guys know how I feel about CJ Stroud.
Where are we on that? I'll tell you, the looking at the Houston Texans who lost to 2 of the field goals that just, I don't think I've been more puckered watching a pair of field goals in my life than what we saw from Bates in that one. I mean, I watched Younghoe Koo miss 3 field goals as he was getting rizzed up. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes down to like that Detroit game, that one definitely felt like one where it was like, okay, just give me a little bit of an opportunity.
If there was an extra layer of paint on the goalposts,
it's gone. It's gone.
We got to stop drafting kickers, right? Like Bates was a brick
We're
salesman. Done. Aubrey was a MLS first overall draft pick. Moody, like we got to just stop drafting these guys. It's not worth the investment. It's never paid off.
I think someone brought up a really good point when they were talking to I think it was the Cowboys special teams coach Bones Fossil about it, and he pointed out that having an actual spring league, it helps you produce more kickers because you can go out there and kick on a football field all you want on the goalpost. It's not the same thing as getting actual practice with the snap and a holder. Like those are valuable things that valuable reps that give opportunity for NFL kickers. So I think I think you brought up Aubrey, you brought up Bates. I think, that is going to be a route that a lot of teams are going to look to in the future, I would imagine.
It's a really good point. The only other real surprise that I could think of is we were talking about the NFC West earlier, and the Los Angeles Rams, who looked like they were surging, dropping their game up against the Miami Dolphins at a game that felt like it was absolutely theirs. Are the Miami Dolphins like back all of a sudden, or is it just that the Rams kind of came crashing down to earth?
The Rams.
Can it be both? It feels like it was a little bit of both when you're watching it. I think that the most surprising games, honestly, going back to what you were saying earlier, were not so much games in which the outcome was shocking, but games in which the way that the game played out were very odd. I look at kind of the Kansas City game. I think, even though the Steelers and Commanders are both very good teams going into that, I was surprised to see the Steelers. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be because the Steelers pulled it out in very Steelers fashion in a lot of ways. But I was a little bit shocked to see that they were able to kind of keep pace when Washington wasn't able to, break through with them the way that they normally did.
I'm surprised no one.
I just can't wait to see which wrestling move George Pickens whips out next.
Dude, he's unbelievable, that guy. He's the best.
That dude's
they need to get him on Raw ASAP. I don't know what the next pay-per-view is, but the one I think, Landon, against your point, is the Bears game. Like, did anyone?
That's true.
Yeah, the Patriots would absolutely put it on the Chicago Bears the way that they did. Yeah. Caleb, like for whatever glee I take in what has happened over the last month. It was pretty shocking to watch some of the misses, just like basic top of the drop, back foot ball out. And it's like not even close. He is, I think, one of the worst quarterbacks in the league and on target percentage, depending on who charts these things, the worst deep ball thrower in the league this season, despite the fact that they are one of the most deep ball heavy teams in the league this season. Nothing makes sense there. They fired their offensive coordinator, but then we get the reporting that there were players that went to Matt Eberflus and said, we should bench Caleb Williams for Tyson Bagent.
Insane.
Like, that's happening. That's crazy. And I think that is a good thing for us to remember, that the locker room can be a weird place and things can happen behind the scenes that we're just not privy to. And maybe it is the case that some of the concerns, let's call them, about Caleb Williams and the way that other players would react to his personality, the demands his dad is making through the media, would have a ripple effect, because Ali Connolly from the Read Optional did a breakdown of this. He posted screen grabs of like the 9 sacks or hits from Caleb Williams. You don't see offensive lineman going over to help him up. You don't see his tight end coming over to help him up. Guys walking past him on the ground. That is a big yikes. And if that's happening already, that seems bad. That seems bad. And this is not a team that like was ready for a Super Bowl, and the offensive line sucks. So you can't be bad and then mad at someone else who's also bad. Like that speaks to me to a team right now that is rotten at the core, which, you hate to see it.
That's right. Secret Bagent man potentially on the way to bench another first-round quarterback. Let's see what happens over in Chicago. All right, let's take a little break from Week 10. Let's take a look ahead to Week 11, because it's time to eliminate some teams from the playoff conversation. Packers, Bucks, 49ers. One of them's got to go. Let's discuss next as we continue on with the NFC squad. This episode of the Locked On NFC Squad is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, where you can tackle the NFL right now with all that FanDuel has to offer, especially as a new customer. New customers right now, you put $5 down, and you can get $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just go and download the FanDuel Sportsbook app so you can take advantage of everything that they have to offer, from all the odds, lines, and props from your favorite sports teams, props, everything that you might be looking for. You can also get into live bets during games. They also have the ability to show you stats, up to the latest, as well as a live play-by-play, all in the same place where you place those bets as well. Thursday Night Football right around the corner. The Washington Commanders looking to rebound after a 1-point disappointing loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've got the NFC East showdown with the Philadelphia Eagles right now. 3.5-point underdogs. You like them, you like the Eagles. You can get in on all of that over at FanDuel.com today. And don't forget, as a new customer, you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This NFC squad also brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks, the easiest and most fun way to play daily fantasy sports. It's simple. It's you and your knowledge of your favorite sports, your favorite teams, your favorite players versus the house. That's it. No big lineup of mystery lineups all over the place where you're competing for a small sliver of an even smaller pot of prize money. No, it's tens of millions of members over at PrizePicks, along with billions of dollars in award winnings. And all you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players and choose whether or not they're going to come in at more or less than their PrizePicks projections. You get some of those right, and it gives you a shot to get up to 100 times your entry back over at PrizePicks. This is how easy it is. Jamar Chase, more or less than 79.5 receiving yards last Thursday night. If you chose more, you're very happy, and you were very, very right with that decision. So just go and download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose with the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, everybody, continuing on with this NFC squad, taking a look at the players, or the teams rather, in the NFC that we should kick out of the playoff conversation. Before we do that, we do promise you scoops. We've got a quick scoop here. New Orleans Saints general manager Mickey Loomis on the radio today said, quote, "It's always great to beat the Falcons." That's great. So when we take a look at where the NFC standings sit at this point, we know the teams that are the favorites in the conference. What about the teams that we want to kick out of that playoff conversation? Obviously, the New Orleans Saints definitely in that conversation, probably already out of the conversation as a whole. The other easy teams like the Bears, the Giants, maybe the Seahawks and Rams. But guys, what are some of the teams that you feel like need to be removed from this conversation, like the 49ers? Are they in there? The Packers, are they in there, Peter? Gino, why don't we start with you? Who would you remove from sort of the NFC playoff conversation at this point?
I was thinking about, I think this was our first NFC squad, and David asked a question like, what team could potentially be in last place that was in first place at the time? And I don't know what Seattle is. Like, somebody try to make sense of the Seattle Seahawks for me. Like, one day they look like they have a great offense, a great defense, and then half the time it looks like they just don't know how to play football. So in that West, like, is Arizona legit? I trust them a little bit more than I do with Seattle. So they got to be on the edge of their heels, because this middle class, this wild card for the NFC, you're probably going to have to get to 9 to 11 wins, and I don't know if Seattle's getting there.
They could use Shane Waldron right now, which is wild to say. But the offense does not look better. The numbers say the offense is not better. Part of that is the offensive line has not improved. Like, why it seems like there are just teams where year after year after year they can't get one position group right. It just doesn't matter how much money, how many resources, and offensive line is the one in Seattle. They have not had a good offensive line like ever, like since Steve Hutchinson, and that was like when I was in middle school. Like, it seems crazy that for as well as John Schneider has drafted, for as well as they've developed players, and for as good a team as they've had for 20 years almost, like, they have never had good offensive line, and it seems like it's going to sink them right now. It's really remarkable. And like, the Packers are the same. They haven't had a good linebacker since Ray Nitschke, for crying out loud. So, I mean, we all have these problems that we're trying to deal with.
Does Clay Matthews did he just never exist?
Well, no, I'm talking off-ball linebacker. Clay Matthews played off-ball linebacker for like half a season, but they are like stack linebacker.
I will say one player that disagrees with the idea that the Seattle Seahawks need Shane Waldron back must be Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think we all remember. that telling moment. That's probably recirculating now.
It's on my Twitter timeline. If you don't, there
you go.
If you haven't seen it,
there you go.
Also, Geno Smith, real quick. We got to call him Eugene until he's back. His name is Eugene.
Oh no!
His name is not Gene. No. Like, my name is Gino. I don't have another name. This is personal. It's Eugene until he gets better.
Wow.
Eugene Smith, quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks.
His mama call him Eugene. I'm gonna call him Eugene.
Yeah. Damn right.
Aaron Freeman, who are you kicking out of the playoff conversation?
I mean, the low hanging fruit is the Chicago Bears at this point in time. So I'm just gonna pick that low hanging fruit and I'm gonna chomp on it. And that's the team that clearly is not going to make the playoffs at this point. I know Peter called it like 2 weeks ago when he was saying, how many teams in the NFC now, Peter? 2?
Well, I said I don't think. I was trying to say there's really only 2 because I didn't think the Bears really or the Vikings were really in the mix there. The Vikings keep winning, but like,
I think they're in the mix now. Yeah,
congratulations on beating Mac Jones, I guess. But
Mac Jones beat himself. If we're being honest,
let's be all the way honest about that. Yeah, Brian Flores. I don't know. Is Brian Flores going to get another head coaching job? Do we think? Like, do we feel differently about?
NFL owners? No, he's not going to.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. Yeah, the thing we got to remember is that the lawsuit that he has is not over. It's just stalled. It's just sitting there in the courts and stuff like that. So it's not as simple as to say like, oh, that's out of the way now. So here's this clear path to a drama-free Brian Flores hiring across the NFL.
I wonder which side can afford to pay legal fees endlessly, Brian Flores' side or the owner's side.
I wonder.
Well, speaking of owners that don't want to pay, Landon, they're currently on Joanne Fabric's website. There's a code. It's sew now 25. Jerry can get somebody to sew him some curtains to put in that stadium.
There you go. He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to. And I tell you why. Because we already have curtains. The Cowboys have seen them up. They just don't put them up for the games. This is the only thing that comes around the earth more than the sun is this conversation with the Cowboys. This is a conversation that's been going on since they built that stadium. They have the curtains. They refuse to use them because Jerry likes the way the light comes to the light.
It does make for some absolutely
it is beautiful.
Got a good picture of Jerry
photos in there. So good.
If only they had some recent banners to hang up there or something, that might help. But I don't know.
Yikes.
I guess that's
too high up there. Yeah.
At what point is Deion Sanders the coach of the Dallas Cowboys? Are we?
Marcus keeps bringing that up, and if you guys keep saying that, I'm gonna hang up this phone right now.
Shadur and Bring them both, man. You're gonna have them both
listen.
there.
The problem is I'm too old because I remember Deion Sanders falling asleep in team meetings and that being a real problem for the Dallas Cowboys in the mid '90s. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it certainly is a possibility. I think it's more likely he retires before he listens to Jerry that much. I think he knows better.
Yeah, I think that's the point that people miss. Like I'm sure Jerry would make that call. But I think Deion is smart enough to know I don't want that. Like I can make a lot of money somewhere else.
I think Deion wants Travis and Shadir to go play for Jerry, but I don't think he wants to go listen to Jerry himself. He's done that already.
Yeah. Let's do a quick one before we move on to our next topic here. The NFC West, real quick, each one of us, which team do you trust the most in the NFC West at this point? Landon, are you good to kick us off there?
Yeah, actually, can I take this the other way? Because the Rams were actually my pick for the fraud in the playoff situation. And that really mostly just has to do with their situation because they're in the West. We don't know what the deal is with Seattle. I mean, I agree that they are very fluxy. You just don't know what you're going to get week to week. But the other problem is that you've got Tampa Bay at 4-6, and I know that they lost last week, but they seem feisty, and they've got a really terrible schedule the rest of the way. I mean, good for them, but terrible as far as the. And so I think that the Rams are likely going to get pushed out of this because they got to play their conference schedule. I think they've been holding on with dear life a lot this season. And I just don't know that they're going to be able to continue to kind of go that route. So to answer your question, I think it's going to be the Cardinals ultimately pushing everybody out of the playoff picture except for themselves in the West.
It could very well be the case that Todd Bowles not going for 2 against the 49ers keeps the Bucs out of the playoffs. Like that could be a thing that happens, and that would be a bummer because it's been fun to watch this team fight and scrap and claw. And I am so happy for Baker Mayfield, who I was not always the biggest Baker guy. But Cleveland did him so dirty, and he has reinvented himself in a way that I just never thought possible. He's been so good this year, throwing to, like
whoever
FedEx drivers, and it doesn't matter because he's just good. And I think Liam Cohen. I was about to say, shout out to Liam Cohen. Like he's one of those guys where I was actually talking to someone Bears related the other day, and they were like, that should have been the guy 2 years ago that they hired. Even though he might be getting a head coaching job in a year anyway, or it's 3 months.
I know a team in the NFC South that might be shopping when it comes to that exact conversation. So
the way that they took it to San Francisco, I was like, we going back again to that conversation we had about it's not so much the outcome, but the way that the games were played. That was one of the biggest examples. The way that the Buccaneers were able to play a physical game with the 49ers in that sense and match them for almost the whole game. I thought that was just really impressive. And again, for Baker to be doing what he's doing without his top 2 wide receivers, I mean, he's going to get Evans back soon, but it's just incredibly impressive. And I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. And
are the 49ers rope-a-doping us, or are they just not that good this year?
Let's hold that thought, though. Let's hold that thought because I want to come back to that. Let's talk about the 49ers, the NFC West, as well as the NFC East. Which one of the teams in these divisions is really going to end up proving themselves with an opportunity here in Week 11? Let's get to that next here as we continue on with our NFC Squad here as a part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This NFC Squad show is brought to you by our friends at Ultimate Pro Football GM. They're back, and now they have an even more exciting game mode that I cannot wait to tell you all about. The game where you usually get to build up your dynasty by drafting players, signing free agents, hiring, or even firing coaching staff now also has a head coach mode where you can call the offensive plays during games. All that on top of new tools like individual training camps, upgraded negotiation systems, and more. You too can hire an interim coach and beat the Atlanta Falcons if you want to, all over at Ultimate Pro Football GM. It's completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. Play on the go when you want, where you want, even on the airplane. It's one of my favorite things about it. And right now there's a special offer just for you. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL in all caps in the game store, and you're going to receive a free boost to your franchise. To download, just head to ultimate-gm.com or look it up in your app stores. Ultimate Pro Football GM. Start your dynasty today. Wrapping up our NFC South squad, Aaron, I'm giving the Falcons a whole lot of trouble, but only because Only because they're solidified atop the NFC South. They're not a part of the conversation that we're about to have, which is teams in divisions that are looking to cement their status. I think the Falcons have already done that. I owe you that much respect, considering how much I've already put you through this evening. Are we well? Are you well? Are you doing
We're
okay?
Fine. We're fine. Yeah.
Okay,
Now I'm getting a taste of what Landon goes through every week on these NFL.
Every week
yeah.
on this show.
We had to pivot it. With David out, we needed to shift the hate somewhere else, so we didn't keep it
punching
in the NFC.
Judy's got
I'll lay off with you,
know
Landon,
what I mean?
moving forward, because now I've been in the hot seat. So you got one person
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
So let's take a look over at the NFC East as well as the NFC West. Let's continue our NFC West conversation first. Are the San Francisco 49ers rope-a-doping us, or are they the team to trust in the NFC West? Who wants to chime in on that one?
Well, I'll chime in first because we've been beaten up a lot by San Francisco over the years, and I will tell you that it definitely felt different this year. They didn't seem like the same team, and the Cowboys are a greatly depleted team. Obviously, they've had struggles, injuries, and all kinds of talent issues at certain spots. But the way that game was going early on, like it felt like they were kind of in that game in a way that they certainly didn't feel like they were in some of the other San Francisco games. It feels like the defense, obviously they have a lot of talent on this team, but it feels like it's deteriorated on the interior of that defensive line quite a bit. And they're getting their defensive tackles getting moved off the ball. I like Malik Collins, but he shouldn't be necessarily the starter as a defensive tackle on that team. So I think that, with the injuries that they've sustained, I don't know that it's a rope-a-dope situation. I think that they are honestly struggling, to kind of rebuild some of that talent because of injury or whatever's happened. But specifically, it just feels like on the defensive side of the ball, they just aren't quite the same physical team that they were in previous seasons.
I think you hit it right on the headline. And we were talking about that game with the Bucs and why are the Bucs able to stay in these games? Well, they're a team that no matter what, they're going to be physical in the trenches, right? San Fran, from where they were last year, you can't look at their defensive line and say that's the same unit. I just think those injuries are truly hurting them. From the offensive perspective, though, that's where I'm worried. It's like they're just not in cohesion on that side of the football. And yes, there are the injuries. Ayuk is out and Christian McCaffrey comes back. But when
Ayuk's not coming back though, like that's
what I mean. Like, when is it going to get better if you're not going to get those answers back?
Yeah.
Well, is C-Mac, are we going to get the same old C-Mac? Because I feel like I need to see a couple more weeks of what he looks like coming back from this injury before I fully bury the 49ers and say that team is done. Because I feel like if you get the same Christian McCaffrey, like, again, it's not the same as having him, Kittle, Ayuk, all those guys cooking at the same time. But that, to me, raises the floor for that team. And they'll probably still manage to win. It won't be pretty. But, like, that's I'm not going to say they're on the same level as the Chiefs, but that's basically what the Chiefs do. They just win in the least pretty ways every single week. And like, that's what that championship pedigree gives you. Just you find ways to win.
The difference is the 49ers have one of the worst special teams units in the NFL. Like, they would never have blocked the kick that the Chiefs did.
I'm not saying they're the Chiefs. I'm just saying,
the thing is you're so right, because they could be 8-9 if they won that division. Every Packer fan in the world, if that was like the 4-5, would pick the 49ers to win that game. Like, Packer fans are scared, of the 49ers, regardless. Like,
anybody would be. If they're the 7 seed, that's
they're a little bit like the Miami Heat in the NBA, where it's just like, until we know that they're just like dead and gone and buried, they are going to scare everybody.
It's a good comparison. I like that a lot. How about looking over at the NFC East, right? The Washington Commanders became a quick NFL fan favorite around. They looked a year early on their rebuild. They, of course, suffer that 1-point loss against Pittsburgh Steelers. They've got the Philadelphia Eagles, your Philadelphia Eagles, Gino, upcoming on tomorrow night. So what do we think about the Washington Commanders and their ability to actually challenge within that division, Gino?
I think they're a legitimate threat. And for the long term, though, they're going to have to make some moves. Obviously, Zach Ertz a little bit older. You have the Eckler element.
Sure.
But I think they have the really core foundational pieces that you look for. They have a great defensive line that's only going to continue to get better. Like, you add Johnny Newton into that rotation with guys like Payne. Like, they're really, really good on that side of the ball. You bring in Lattimore. Their secondary is only going to get better. But it starts with the quarterback. We were talking about Caleb Williams and his guys potentially not buying into what he's selling. Jake Daniels has a life being the face of used car lots all over the country. Whatever he is selling in that locker room, he got everybody to buy in. And that's what you need in the NFC East, where it quite literally is a year-to-year division.
Yeah.
It takes is one game on the road to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and all of a sudden you can go and win this thing. Now, with that said, to be the king, you got to beat the king. You got to go and knock off the Eagles, who, yes, they did kind of shoot themselves in the foot, and Landon and Marcus got a whole bunch of nice videos out of that last year from my prediction. But the Eagles definitely are at the forefront of this division right now. Washington's not going anywhere, though. They're going to be a scary team. And like you said, they're a year ahead of schedule. Now you only make that rebuild a year earlier. What are they be in 2025? That's the scariest thought.
Ross, what do you think Marshawn Lattimore does to that defense? Because it seemed like at the beginning of the year, I'm going, there's no way they have the horses defensively, but he's one of those guys. If they want to play a bunch of man coverage with Dan Quinn, like that's the guy.
Yeah, there were certainly opportunities where they could have used him up against George Pickens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's no doubt about that.
Fun as hell.
What a matchup that would have been to watch. I think the thing that you get with Marshawn is that he's not somebody that has a ton of ball production in terms of interceptions and things like that, especially at this point in his career. But he is the guy that forces the quarterback to go to the next read and gives those pass rushers, especially that defensive interior, like Gino was just highlighting, the opportunity to get to that quarterback and disrupt that quarterback. So I think that's the place where you end up having the biggest impact with him, is that he makes your quarterback look the other way. And that can be really valuable if you're willing to allow him to shadow a receiver, which the Saints did not do. They played sides. That was Dennis Allen's thing. That's why Dennis Allen's probably not in the building anymore, a part of the reason. And then so now you look at where he would be able to kind of contribute there. I think that's where you get the best kind of bang for your buck in that trade.
Well, Lattimore against AJ Brown twice a year. Sign me up for that, please.
You also got to consider the fact that he's replacing Noah Igbenogany. So, I mean, I think the sheer volume and distance of talent that they're improving on is pretty shocking. I'll say that as a fellow member of the NFC East, I think Washington still is a year away. I do think that we'll see how the stretch of this season goes. But I think we've seen, I don't want to directly compare it, but I think we've seen this kind of hype behind Washington quarterbacks that play like this before. And I think once defenses start to catch up with them, that, it turns on them quickly.
But doesn't his performance against Pittsburgh put a little bit of that to rest? Like, Pittsburgh is one of the best defenses in the league,
and it was the hell out of him too, man. He stood in there.
It's one of those weird things. Like, he has passed every test to me, Jaden Daniels. I mean, I don't know what else you need to see from him. And the fact that Cliff Kingsbury was able to build an offense for him right away. And like Terry McLaurin,
that's the other part of this, Peter, is that there's a thing about Cliff Kingsbury, and when
but we keep waiting for it to happen, Landon. We keep waiting for it to happen, and it hasn't happened yet. Like at some point,
look,
you gotta just
Landon's.
I'm unimpressed by a Pittsburgh win because we beat Pittsburgh, for God's sakes.
Good point, Landon. Good point.
All y'all's problem is we beat Pittsburgh. It was really easy.
I think Landon's just trying to move the goalposts out of the sunlight. That's all he's doing. He's just trying to get it out of the way a little bit.
Yeah. It's just, look, I just think that there's a lot of folks on that team that have a history of starting out really well and then it not ending very well. So, whether it's the head coach, the offensive coordinator,
that was a 28-3 joke. I think.
Sorry, Aaron. Listen, hey,
I thought we were friends.
He was on your side, Landon.
Our former coach. I mean,
that was a Bukowski stray if I've ever seen one right there. Out of the clouds.
It just came out of the
thought we were friends, my friend.
Look, I just think
that was
I want to see
George
more.
Pickens.
You're asking me what
people's elbow.
You're asking me what I want to see. I want to see more, and I want to see it at the end of the season. And I think that's fair because that certainly has been a prerequisite for a lot of these great teams that started out hot, and then we get to late November, December, and they crater. Whether it's their schedule getting more difficult, or whether it's the weather getting more changing, or it's the defensive coordinators catching up to these players. It doesn't really matter. I just want to see more and later in the season.
Well, and if they do lose Cliff Kingsbury, if he's the next Chicago Bears head coach, which is the joke I've been making for the last month, does the next guy that they bring in have the goods to build an offense around Jaden Daniels, who I think, and this we're seeing this with the Eagles too, you have to build a specific type of offense around quarterbacks like that. Now, I think Daniels is a high-level passer, but he has not played in a traditional NFL style system probably in his entire life. And so you have to bring in the right guy to help if you're going to have him do that, which I do think he can do. Like, I think the sky is the limit for him. I think he's so freaking good. But if you're going to have him transition into some of those concepts and that style of play, then, and I'm not even advocating you do that, but I'm just saying you have to have the right next guy. If you're going to have a defensive head coach. This is the problem with having a defensive head coach.
I know a little something about that, Peter, where Dan Quinn hired a great first offensive coordinator and Kyle Shanahan, and then
Shane Steichen.
Get the next guy right. So I think that is a legit issue.
Started out great and didn't finish great.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, well, sometimes that's the way it be. But I'll tell you what, man, we started out great and we're finishing great here on this NFC squad. This was awesome. And if you want more of these wonderful folks, we've got you covered here every single day for the latest on your favorite teams here on the Locked On Podcast Network. So we thank you very much for being here with us for another NFC South squad. We'll be here each week and we will see you next week here on the show. Don't miss a moment of these folks' coverage. Once again, Peter Bukowski of Locked On Packers, Gino Camilleri from over at Locked On Eagles, Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons, Landon McCool of Locked On Cowboys, and myself, Ross Jackson of Locked On Saints. We will see you here again soon as a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.